Welcome to the What Can I Do podcast. We're starting a new feature. It's going to be Mondays with Mel. Mel Lim is a multifaceted leader and local force in Lake County, California. She's known for her vibrant presence as a real estate professional, entrepreneur, and local community advocate. Through her engaging social media presence, she highlights the best of Lake County, from supporting small local businesses and hidden culinary gems to documenting the beauty of the waterfront wonderland. So welcome to the podcast, Mel.
Thank you.
So what we're doing here and where our interests intersect is we're looking at the east side of Lake County, California. The east side starts from almost the northern tip of the lake up in Nice and comes down through Lucerne. And then we go into Glen Haven and Clear Lake Oaks, which even includes up in the hills. There's Big Valley and there's Spring Valley. Then we can't forget the LM colony out behind where Clear Lake Oaks, where Orchard Shores is. And then going down, we're going to do some things with Clear Lake, but since Clear Lake is a city and incorporated, that's not going to be our main focus, but we will go ahead and include Hidden Valley Lake and Lower Lake in our concerns. So why is that so interesting? Well, it turns out that our organization and Mel and some other local leaders have really found out that the east side is demographically and different from the rest of Lake County, which already stands out from the rest of California rural areas as having very specific problems to rural areas and certain blighted situations. So we're going to share with you what we've noticed, and we're going to use this particular segment of the What Can I Do podcast to focus in on concerns for our area, particularly things like restaurants and entertainment and things that would make this area even more worth living in besides its natural beauty. So what have we noticed? We've noticed that Lake County is the 41st most populous of California's 58 counties. In other words, not terribly populated. 95% are U.S. citizens. The median age is 44. So white people, non-Hispanic white people make up about 66% of the population, with Hispanic and Latino making up another 25%. 5% are mixed race, 5% American Indian, about 2% Black, about 1.5% Asian, and other trace numbers of other people. So this Native American figure, this is important, is notably high. Lake County's been Pomo territory for over 10,000 years, and several tribal communities remain active in the county. Speaking of their stamina and many things that they have done for themselves, because there's not enough support here, which we'll get to at some point. In any case, income and poverty, the median household income is around $60,000, per capita around $40,000. The poverty rate is almost 17,000, which is well above the national average of 12%. So the largest demographic in poverty are females between 55 and 64, followed by females between 25 and 34, and then followed by males 55 to 64. So we definitely have a problem with our aging community. But we also have a significant problem for young women trying to launch in the community. And while it doesn't talk about young men, we know we have possibly a bigger problem with young men, because the young women are potentially from this demographic out on their own being poor, and the young men are probably living at home. So the child poverty rate here is at 21.6%. Now, the housing is one of the biggest problems here, because 21% of the population lives with severe housing problems. This county is one of the higher density manufactured home counties in Northern California. And from everything I've just said, it's much more concerning on the east side than anywhere else.
And now I'm ready.
And now I'm going to turn it over to Mel, because the rest of what I would be talking about has to do with psychological conditions and things like that, which, while it's interesting, I know that she's going to be talking about some housing issues, and it has the perfect segue to anything else I might say today.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me here. Yeah, definitely we'd like to hear all about the psychological issues at a later date, so I think we could incorporate that in some of our next features. So the biggest news that I have for everyone in Lake County is twofold. One is the Big Oak Peer Support Center in Clear Lake Oaks, and also the Circle of Native Minds in Lakeport will close on June 1st, 2026, due to state funding changes, Proposition 1 and the Behavioral Health Services Act. These closures, announced by Lake County Behavioral Health Services, affect key community resources for medical, housing assistance, food, and culturally specific support. So this is really key, because the reason why all this changes has come about is because of the statewide budget. So basically, these actual buildings within Clear Lake Oaks and Lakeport have reached its maximum allotment of funding. So there's no more, and so as of June 1st, which is less than 5 weeks, we won't have a place for them to, for instance, take showers weekly. Like on Tuesday, Clear Lake Oaks, they offered that, and we're going to look into what we can do in place of that, find a place to have them be able to do that, as well as find food. A lot of people in the area, as you know, they're carless. They have no means of transportation or easy ways to get around, because our public transit system is very far from the norm, and it's very difficult. It actually takes a couple hours just to get to one side of the lake from the other, plus the actual bus schedule is very varied, between like waiting for an hour to 2 hours between each bus stop. So this is really important that we look into this and find a solution quickly. It's something that I find that's near and dear to my heart, because I see so many homeless walking around with their carts and walking through all conditions. We have very hot summers, very cold winters, and Heidi, you can attest to how the weather it's like here. Yeah.
I mean, going from snow to the deep part of summer and back again to rains, and yeah.
So the status of the remaining resources, this is important, is that there's remaining centers like La Voz de Esperanza Latino Wellness Center Family Support in Clear Lake, and the Harbor on Main Use Resource Center in Lakeport. And the good thing, though, is Lake County Behavioral Health is exploring alternative formats for services, such as a potential clubhouse model at the remaining sites. So we'll probably have to find out what that entails at a later date. But the two remaining centers, seeing the population of Lake County, I think is an average of about 75,000 now, maybe even higher, that there isn't not enough resources for the people to go to be integrated into the remaining two centers. So having four centers down to two centers is going to be very problematic.
Plus, they can't get to them. You know, they need more centers, and they need them where they are. I think that our foundation is going to need to work on grant writing, because we're going to need community funding. We cannot keep relying on county funding. We need something that's centered right here, focused right here, raising money for us here.
That's true. That's definitely true. Now, I wanted to switch a little bit into the housing market. So this is as of February 2026. It's the most recent information I can get from the real estate market. And so right now, the median home price in Lake County is approximately $335,000, but it represents a 4.6% decrease year after year. So there are significant areas ranging from lower cost demand areas, like part of the east side, what we talk about, Clear Lake, as the lowest being $200,000 to $270,000. Locations like Hopland or Hidden Valley Lake at $360,000 to over $550,000. The median sales in the area, let's start with Clear Lake again, is the 200 to 210. Nice is 214 to 275. Lucerne is 237 to 265. Clear Lakes is 249 to 297. Part of that's probably the Keys. Cobb up in the mountains is 306 to 395. Upper Lake is 312 to 354. Lakeport is 342 to 349. Kelseyville 341 to 442, which is not surprising at all. Hidden Valley at 365 to 369. Lower Lake 368 to 424, and Hopland 555 to 5670. Actually, have you been to Hopland before?
Mm-hmm.
What is it like there?
Rural.
It's rural, but more land per area.
Kind of.
Do you know?
Well, it doesn't smell when the lake smells. It's over the hills. I didn't think it was part of our county.
It says that it is.
Because it's the Hopland grade is part of our county, but I believe when you get all the way over to Hopland, I think it's Mendo.
Yeah, it says Lake County, but maybe it's part of Hopland, not all.
Right? Or yeah, who knows up in the hills where the actual boundary is for what, right?
Yeah.
But point taken, it's still part of our community.
So the key market trends that's really important, though, is the homes are selling a lot slower. I think a lot of people know that. So the average now is up to 109 days, and before it was at 76 days, a year ago.
Did you notice, too, that the further west you went, the higher the prices? So as we're coming over here to the east, it drops significantly. It's more than just our community. It's also the fact that it's further away from 101, but it's not close to 5. You know, it's also those issues.
It's very good. It's the demographic part of it, and also just the actual population. So the places that are more populated, densely populated, like the poorer it is, because it's just more people in a smaller area versus less people.
So you're talking about rural density, which is kind of different than urban density, because when you collect enough up to where you have a city, then property values may go up because it gets industry and it gets jobs, blah, 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 right?
That's definitely...
But, and I read about this too, I just haven't noted it, but rural density breeds more poverty because there are fewer opportunities out there for that group of people, like you were saying.
Well, we do have a job deficit. We definitely need to talk about that, the amount of jobs that are available. And actually, that's kind of interesting because a lot of people move here, single women, like myself and others, that were trying to find the least expensive county in all of California, which is Lake County, by the way. And it's the poorest county, sorry.
Right, it's why we retired up here. Same idea, retired people and single women.
Which then I found out that when I came here, that it wasn't that much cheaper than what I thought. So what I thought, and I'm going to give a specific example, this is me personally, I thought if I bought a house outright, and I brought and had $3,000 in supplemental income, that I could live here. And then I realized I could not, that I basically need to find some other part-time work. But being disabled, like so many people are here, you can't have a JOB job. So that makes a lot for reasons why maybe there's other things that people do that are not legal in order to make money.
I think that desperation leads there. Before you go on, though, there's another element of this that you made me think of. We have by far the highest percent of self-employed people to other rural counties. So the reason why that's so fascinating is because in a way it's a weakness, because the extra taxes and blah blah blah. There's all these things that make it a weakness. It's hard. You have to self-fund and all this, and people don't have the skills to get started, so they might not be that good at it. But on the positive, we can use it as a strength in our community to be moving away from the billionaires. And I think that by playing on that, rather than telling people be different, get educated, blah, we tell people we're going to help you do what you're already doing and do it better and be more successful at it. And
so
that
be
might
more
be a better selling point
self-sufficient within our community and our county.
Yes.
In order to not have to like compete so much.
Right. And also going low tech and going local, we're keeping, like, here's an example too. You know how I was concerned about those people where they got their the data breach, and so now I know it's 420 and all these people are going to be going there, and I'm worried about our community, right? The dude who owns that is from Vallejo, and all the money that the community's been pouring, he has 3 stores right here, pouring, they are making money hand over fist, is all going to Vallejo, right, to this dude. But the data breach will happen to the people here, and he gets to take the money and run, and he's telling people, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry.
Right, that makes sense.
So I would like to see, going back to the point, us being able to keep more of our money central and local, and being able to, if we're going to suffer the consequences and spend the money, maybe we can benefit from the money.
The last thing I wanted to say with the inventory of the homes is that it dropped to 47 in February 2026, and that's a 7.8% decrease from the previous year. And that's kind of interesting because I talked to some realtors personally since I went last year and did some open homes and went and showed people what there was available for the amount that they would get. And a lot of these homes actually didn't sell, and they were taken off the market. So we have a lot of homes that were on the market that are not on that are not on the market anymore, but not due to being sold. They're basically being kept because there were no buyers. So
Wow. And I think after COVID, the like Airbnb type of things kind of diminished. I don't think the market for that is as high, especially around here.
yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah, tourism has really fallen in the last 3 years, and I've talked to some business owners, and especially restaurants, and they said in the last 3 years they noticed the tourism overall has been even more suppressed than it was before. So as you know, it was on its height in the 70s and in the 80s, and then from the 1993 or what have you, it just diminished. But right now we're just trying to find ways. So a lot of
Right.
local businesses are trying to find out where the money is going, and they realized, some of them, that a lot of the restaurants are getting supported by the locals in the area, especially in the neighborhoods. So very generalized. Like if I live in Glen Haven, well, there's nothing in Glen Haven, that's a bad
No,
example.
but we all meet at the Happy Garden for a lot of different things, which is right here in the Oaks, and we just kind of tend to go, oh, it's easy, we'll meet there.
Right.
And it's okay, you know?
But other places, and this is the dichotomy of where we talked about with music and restaurants, is that a lot of them are located all within Lakeport and Kelseyville. I think those two are the most populated areas which have a higher income brackets, because even saying that our median income is 60,000 is kind of, it's not very indicative, because we think of all the people that are making 20,000 or less.
Well, it also doesn't tell you how many people are in those families, and they tend to like have there's a great big tendency to have many dependent couch surfing relatives kind of hanging, and that money is going in more places than you might think.
Right. And even a household, you could think a household of like roommates. Well, your roommate isn't really I mean, I guess in and all they're paying a little bit for the mortgage, but what I'm saying is you really can't count that as their amount of money to live on for the year, because the 60,000 isn't like, oh, we all make 60,000 between the four of us here in this house, so therefore, you only have 15,000 a year, each. So
no,
anyway.
and then that's not taking into account taxes, so you're not really getting that net in the first, right? So
Right.
just because you hear that number doesn't mean, oh, they have 60. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, because 60,000 is like 45, if that.
And then it depends. It depends on who you're supporting, what you're doing, or if you don't have any of those things, they take a decent amount of your money.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so my last bit.
Yes.
I did this much longer. I took the conclusion of it. Comparison of Lake County to Mendocino, Sonoma, and Colusa.
Okay.
And what I wanted to know, because it talked about what this county has and what that county has, I said, I want to know what all three of those other counties have that we don't. What is present in all of them that they're all thriving with, but we don't have it at all? What is that?
What is it?
Well, 3 specific things. One is a boys and girls club type of environment. All 3 counties have an active BGC affiliate. Sonoma Marin BGC serves over 10,000 kids at 40 clubs. The Sonoma Valley one has 1,600 youth annually. Colusa has a regional infrastructure. Lake County has none, which matters specifically because Boys and Girls Club is engineered for after school and summer hours, the exact window of highest risk for unsupervised youth in high poverty rural communities. Well, this fits in with what our foundation is aiming for. And like I said, we're probably not going to be able to help the kids that are this age now, but maybe their children will have a different environment. Second one, a structured financial literacy infrastructure. Mendocino's Community Foundation explicitly funds financial literacy, money management, debt workshops. That's one of the things we want to be doing. That's our mentorship concept, right? Grant making priorities. Colusa runs an independent living program, and this is exactly what you're complaining that they're stopping, is even beginning to have this sort of thing. Right. I mean, a shower goes literally as, how do we get literacy if they're filthy and feel small?
Maybe that's what the clubhouse model comes in.
I think so too.
Figure out what that is.
Exactly. And how to fund it, and who, and we could have it be for youth after school and have it be for grown-ups in the evening, or right? It could have multi-purposes if we could do something around here.
We don't have any resources. Segment just a little bit about children, like having before, when we had the bowling alley, when we had, skating rink, when we had this or that. And now when I look for any facilities, even for myself, for any outdoor activities, I mean, the only activity that we have is hiking.
Hiking.
But that doesn't really help with kids because you can't unsupervise and say, "Okay, kids, go up to Mount Canocti and come back. And
That's
I'll
right.
be down here while you go up there." So
I wish we could, but I would wear them out and let them sleep
know.
well at night. But this is the issue, and that's why I'm saying we can start building this, but it will not be for the kids of today. It will be for the kids of tomorrow to really get it going. It's for the parents of tomorrow, which means doing stuff for the kids of today so they're better parents, so that next generation is doing so much better. So there's a 30-year-old, this is Leadership Mendocino, a 30-year-old program where class members take day-long field trips to build civic leadership. And so they're having a pipeline from children to literacy, financial literacy, and government. Then the third one. Oh, wait, I just mixed two things up. That's brilliant.
No, that's okay.
That's okay. You got all three. The Boys and Girls Clubs type of thing, the structured financial literacy, and a functioning community foundation as a civic anchor as a pipeline. Those are the three. And then it says, the synthesis from that conversation, every comparison county had an institutional layer between the family and the government, a community foundation. And Lake County just doesn't have that. The institutional middle layer is where the civic identity, financial literacy, mentorship, and youth programming actually gets sustained over time. Its absence in Lake County is not a gap in one program, it's a structural whole.
You know, what I would like to do maybe in the next couple segments is find out, based on where we are in education, our county versus other counties, because that's
most of the counties, the rural counties where things are low are at about 26% proficiency in reading. We're at 22.
Okay.
That happened to come up in all this.
Okay, and we can look more into like the diagnostic testing, like where we fall, you know, as far as like the testing for PSAT or what have
Very
you.
much so. That would be
And
helpful.
also
We can talk to Mendo too and how the freshmen are coming in.
Yeah, and also each subject area, because it's very
That's
different
right.
in other areas. Like when
Math
I was a
is-
substitute teacher in Fremont, many of the kids who didn't speak English, which is a predominant problem in all of California, is that
Even
they
for
were
English
better
speakers.
at math. Everyone in general was better at math.
You want to know what changed that a bit?
They were terrible at English.
This is what changed it. The testing, all right, so you teach the kids the math concepts, and you might even teach some in their own language and stuff so that they really deeply get the concepts. And then you test them, and you test them with questions that are not only in English, but they're either at or above their grade level. The questions are poorly constructed and do not test their math, so their math scores have dropped.
Yeah, that's true. There
It's
was a big
awful.
thing about the cultural differences within
That
It's not even intellect; it's just the understanding of being able to get to a certain level, which they could achieve if they were accommodated.
If they were properly accommodated. But see, then people get upset because they think if you teach them in another language, then they're not learning to be citizens of this. They don't understand.
But yeah, it's a bigger
So
thing.
that's a whole other thing. So one other really quick thing, and then I'll shut it down, okay? Because this is all right. I'll just shut it down. We can. How should we end? Because we can edit.
Oh no, I think we could basically keep going. I did want to ask, what's the foundation name? Because you
It's Rural Launch Foundation in Juku.
Okay, so that's what the RLF.
Right.
What,
J. Have you heard of a Juku? In Japan, we lived in Japan for a year. They have after-school schools or cram schools.
Okay, yes.
And so you might learn English there, or you might have a science Juku. And I always loved that concept, and I wanted to do something that supplemented and augmented the public school system.
Okay, that's great.
And there's where Juku came from.
Nice. Okay, well, yeah.
The one other little piece was that I studied, you know who Goebbels is, yeah?
No.
Hitler's propagandist.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I've been studying that because I'm looking at propaganda today. So that was that thread. Turns out they told me about this dude named, I think, Bayless, whatever. I'd never heard of him. He turns out to be Freud's nephew. And he is the reason why our advertising is the way it is and so psychologically embedded. And I could go on with that, but I won't. However, he used it for very negative things most of the time. And you can see where things have gone from all that. And Goebbels attributed his success to this guy. So I asked, what of those principles could we turn on their heads and use them to embed into our community, but for good, so that they, instead of following the dear leader, are becoming self-sufficient and educated? And that's where I'd like to go. That's where my thinking is going for what we're going to do around here.
Well, it sounds good.
So until next time.
See you later.
Thank you.